Nursing students, time to talk. Welcome to the Real Talk School of Nursing Podcast, Season 4, Episode 10. I am your good and faithful host, Michael Smith. Thank you for continuing to subscribe to the show. You can support the show directly on our Patreon account at www.patreon.com/realtalknursing, and for less than a cost of a 2 parts vodka, 1 part citrus juice, half part simple syrup, shaken or stirred to your liking, served over ice or neat, quarantining, you can gain patron benefits such as early content, shoutouts, and special swag. Write in the show at realtalknursing@gmail.com or use Facebook Messenger or contact us through Instagram or Twitter to share your experiences, ask questions, and give feedback. Thank you for supporting our friends, affiliates, and sponsors. Thank you to everyone who started following us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. More listeners means more and better shows. Make sure to share the episode with classmates and especially underclassmen and cohorts. Let's give a hand up to those who are coming behind us and welcome them to our community of fun, engaged, and supportive nursing students and nurses. Don't forget to reach out and tell us if you have any announcements for graduations, good grades, difficult tests, friends you want to help congratulate, and your announcement will be featured on the show. If you like the show, the Real Talk School of Nursing podcast is available on iTunes, Google Play, iHeartRadio, Libsyn Web Player, Stitcher, YouTube, Spotify, and SoundCloud. So, go to wherever you download podcasts, subscribe, rate us, review us, write into the show, and smash that subscribe button. Remember to leave only 5-star reviews because that's the only ratings that count to get us noticed by more nursing students. I want you to be part of this crazy nursing school journey.
If you're like most Americans, you enjoy a nice morning poop routine. But the toilet paper's missing. What's going on? Well, the coronavirus plus people losing their freaking mind has left you with a shortage of that sweet butt paper that makes your morning the great time that it is. So what are you going to do? Give Portable Bidet Cleaning a call and we'll make sure to clean up that tail section to help you get your day started right. And at PBC, we only want you to be as clean as you want to be. That's why we offer 3 levels of service. Clean, really clean, and I'm pretty sure you took some skin off. We can promise you that you'll never go back to that paper once you've had your tailboard cleaned off with 150 PSI of bidet love. So stop giving stores your business and let us clean your business end at Portable Bidet Cleaners.
This is it. Today is the drawing for round 1 of our Yeti Cooler giveaway. And to help me announce is a new member to the Real Talk family, Casey Jones, BSN RN. Casey comes to the Real Talk family after managing Refreshments and Narcotics RN on Instagram and wanted to venture further into podcasting. She's an amazing nurse and was recently nominated through strange means. Maybe she'll tell the story to us someday for the Daisy Award. She's very funny and she's very engaging, and I'm so excited. I had talked about it in the last two episodes, but I'm so excited that she's coming to the show, and I'm so excited for what she's bringing to the show. So welcome, Casey Jones.
Thank you for that intro. That made me blush a little bit about the Daisy Award, but that's a story we'll have to save for when everyone gets to know me better. It sounds a lot worse than it is. We're making it sound weird, but so we stopped the Instagram giveaway on the 31st, and we picked our winner last night.
Well, let's wait until the very end. Let's wait till the very end to announce it.
We're gonna wait till the end. Okay.
Wait to the end.
All right.
So
we're gonna keep.
We'll keep that a secret. So I do want to, because nobody knows who you are. Nobody knows who you are. So give me a nickel tour of who you are and what your career has looked like so far to this point.
My career in my short 5 years has been all over the damn place, to be completely honest. I graduated with my BSN in 2011. I worked on a med-surg floor for a year, and I absolutely hated it. I left the second I could and moved to another state. Did telemetry. I dabbled in work-from-home case management for about a year and a half. And that, I liked it, but I kind of missed bedside nursing strangely, which I never thought I would after leaving it. So now I'm back working at the bedside on a telemetry floor again, and I'm also working at a surgery center. So I'm doing both jobs per diem, which is pretty cool with the flexibility.
Sure. What kinds of things do you have coming up? Like you've done a tele floor, you've done case management, you've been a nurse for 5 years. So what is your future look like? Like, what are the kinds of things that you want to do? Like, I don't want to say like, what's your 5-year plan? But like, what are things that you want to do? What's the direction that you want to take your career?
So I'm probably the most indecisive person in the world, which is why nursing was a great choice for me, because I change my mind and my interests all the time. I'm just so all over the place. Right now, I'm very happy with where I'm working, and I don't plan on changing that anytime soon. Mm-hmm. I did start my master's degree working in case management for healthcare administration. That
good for you.
Made sense at the time, working for an insurance company and having that room for growth. But I decided administration is just not for me. It's boring. I don't really like any administrators anyway, so it didn't really make sense.
Yeah, but you could be the first administrator that people like.
Well, so that was my initial thought. But then I was like, I bet they all thought that. And then they all turned into what we all hate. So, and I don't handle it well when people hate me. So I decided I don't think I'm going to do that. I would really like to get into clinical instructing at some point. I do work day shifts sometimes, and I love having students. I have so much fun showing them the ropes, and I don't know. They always push the students onto me because I'm one of the few nurses that actually enjoys it and doesn't get annoyed by it. And I also would really like to work with gift of life more towards the end of working in my bedside career, to being one of the on-call nurses that evaluates for organ donors.
Do you have some history with that?
It was actually really weird. I was in an internship in college in a surgical ICU, and it was a level 1 trauma center. I actually had an emergency appendectomy 3 days before this happened. And
you did.
I did. And I went back to the internship because I was a neurotic nursing student, and I was terrified of missing anything. And the surgeon who did my appendectomy was rounding on the floor that day and saw me on the floor. And he said, "You are not supposed to be here right now." And he went up to the nurse manager and told her she needs to find something for me to do that isn't patient care, because I was still turning patients and doing whatever they told me to do. So he narked on me, and then they sent me to the OR, and I actually got to watch an organ harvest, which was amazing. The gift of life nurse was really awesome. She brought me into a room, kind of debriefed me on everything, let me know what was going to happen, offered support, explained everything. And it was just, that really interests me. I'm really big on the whole end of life care and not prolonging life if it's not a good quality of life. So I also am a big believer that I don't need my organs when I'm dead. So I would love if everyone made themselves organ donors. But yeah, so that's kind of, it's a weird story, but that experience has always really stuck with me.
That's really cool. So let's jump into a couple of things. So let's just bring you right along for it. So let's go into our prereq section. So as you know, as we've talked about a long time, we separate the show, and for our listeners, we separate the show into 3 basic columns, the 3 basic stages of nurses, which is, nursing students or students who are going through their prereqs, students who are in nursing school, and then students who have graduated. So they're in their NCLEX prep, and then in the first year and a half or whatever of nursing. So new grads or whatever. And that's the 3 main columns.
Right.
So let's start with prereqs. And obviously in the news, I've tried to talk as little about it and in my own personal life, because it seems to be all that anybody is talking about it about right now. But how do you think, so if we're talking about a prereq student, how do you think that someone who is in prereq nursing, in the pre-nursing position, someone who's in their prereqs is looking at this COVID-19 situation and thinking about their plans to enter the healthcare profession?
I could see this going one of 2 ways. I could see it people who are desperate for a job like me and took the first job I could find after school because I was broke, I would probably have the mindset, oh my God, this is kind of great. There's going to be so many openings at the hospitals and it'll take literally anyone right now for work. So that would be part of my thought, is the job security. I think overall, though, I would be very discouraged seeing how nurses on social media are expressing how they feel that they're being treated by our healthcare system. And I would be a little bit intimidated. You see a lot of things about labor and delivery nurses getting pulled from their floor and going to float in the ICU and stuff and being thrown completely out of their element. And that's pretty terrifying, even if you're a seasoned nurse. So as a new grad, sure. I can't imagine. I don't think I would have handled it very well at all.
So I feel like I've lived through this kind of situation before, because I can recall vividly what it was like on September 11th, 2001.
How old were you then?
I was 19 or 20 years old. So
I was
a sophomore. I know, I'm old. Thanks for the reminder. I also have a bald head to remind me every day.
He does. I'm looking right at it. It's so shiny. It's like blinding me. Just so you all are aware, how old was I? What did I tell you? I think I was in third grade. September 11th. Yeah, just for reference.
So, thanks.
Sorry.
Thanks so much. As if I don't have, as if the daily reminders from nurses I work with, like, wow, you look so much different without a beard. Like, yes, I've lost my beard and my hair. Thanks, guys.
I hadn't
Thanks, everybody.
noticed.
Sure. But I remember vividly what it was like on September 11th. And I was in ROTC. I was in college. I was a sophomore in college. And we were already talking, the big talk in my classes were, what branch we all wanted to go to. And I wanted to be an infantry officer. I wanted to be on the front lines of combat. And that was a really hard life, but it was a challenge that I wanted to know if I was worthy of that. And I feel similarly now. At that point I had a choice. If the infantry, like today, if nursing was something that I really wanted to know if I was worthy of, I could have gone a couple of different ways. So at that point I had a choice. I could have quit school and enlisted in order to get into the fight. Because I was like 2 years plus, from getting into a deployment at a minimum anyway. And it was really tough to stay motivated through school, knowing that there were already people who were in the fight, because I felt like I was not doing my part. So I see that there was like a few choices. So number one, if you're in prereqs, you can quit altogether and decide that healthcare, as a profession isn't where you want to be. I think we've all seen the social media stuff. If you're plugged into any of the nursing stuff, like, I didn't sign up for this kind of stuff.
Right.
Like, it's in the Army, it was the people who were like, I came here for the scholarship, I didn't actually think that I would have to go to combat, because at that point we had been out of Kuwait for like over a decade. That was like, in the early 90s. So like people had basically forgot about combat altogether. But anyway, so like nursing prereq students, can put their school on hold and go get a job in healthcare as like a CNA or an EMT. And we've talked about the relatively low educational threshold that those programs have. The, CNA is basically a weekend or maybe a month, and EMT is, 12 to 16 weeks, depending on how it, depending on how fast you do it. You can start earning money and you can get into the fight and learn a ton about what this life is like on the front lines or in a support role, at least. Mm-hmm. And I think the third option is like you just stay in school and you wait for your time. And I think there's a similar discussion to be had for those who are in nursing school, if they're in a similar situation. But I think because they're a little bit further down the line and so close, I think the right thing to do, from my perspective, is to be patient and stay in school and finish your education. And I think this is probably the best. I think if you're in nursing school and you're looking at this and you're being impatient, I think you need to stay in school because it's the best pathway to make sure that you're ready for the responsibilities of practicing as a nurse. And I think that's where I come down on
Absolutely. And I'm really, now that we're talking about this, I'm really curious to see how nursing instructors are portraying all of this. Because in nursing school, I was very falsely led to believe that this career was magical and all my patients would just love me and appreciate me. And it's so rewarding, which it is. I mean, I think the good far outweighs the bad as far as the patients that we work with. But they don't tell you that you're going to get punched or kicked or spit on and all of that. And I'm just really wondering how they're trying to cover this up to not scare the nursing students right now.
But I think to a certain degree, I think they should be scared.
Oh,
I mean, I think,
yeah, 100%.
I think that, I mean, and I don't mean like scared as in they should be scared of the profession, but I think they should have, I think one of the reasons, and I talked about this in a previous podcast episode where like people do have that like magical sense about what things are like, and they don't get sat down and be like, look, this is a really hard career.
Right.
This is going to be super difficult, and if you go into these, if you go into the profession with these false expectations, you're not going to make it through the first year. And it's amazing how many letters and how many posts that I see around social media about like I hate nursing. Like the episode was 3 episodes ago where I named it like I hate nursing because people just I feel like they have a false expectation about what the profession is like, and I think this is a great showcase about what it can be like.
Yeah, and this is something never in my wildest thoughts could I have ever imagined that I would be in the middle of a pandemic in my nursing career. That's just not something. Like a month ago, everything was normal, and now it's a total disaster, and we have no idea what's going on. And I could have just nothing could have prepared me for this. I mean, my first month as a nurse, I had those expectations going in that it was going to be magical. I'd leave every shift with butterflies all warm and fuzzy. And I became very jaded very quickly. So it's either you leave or you just kind of toughen up and realize this. And then there's those rare nurses that are just annoyingly happy all the time, and I call them annoying because I'm kind of jealous and I wish I could be like that and have that positive outlook all the time. But yeah, it's this, especially what we're going through right now, nothing can prepare you for it. And I don't really know I can't imagine how nursing schools could even go about preparing students for this. So I would say stay in school as long as you can.
All right. Well, let's pause there. Let's take a commercial break, and when we come back, we'll talk through our nursing school segment, and let's hear from Coletta Hewitt and the Piloters.
Do I hit stop too?
Patience. What is that? Who even has time for that? PIE is PIE. Patience in everything. It's a simple yet difficult, yet powerful thing to learn. Think about the last time you were impatient. What came of it? How patient am I with others? How patient am I with myself? How patient and kind am I with the trials and unexpected turns in life? Am I patient and fully aware of the blessings of each day? I've been given a gift, be it fruit or life. It's up to me to choose how to use it. This is a book of short essays on life through something as simple as pie. Here's Coletta reading Piology 101.
Piology 101, the synchronicity of pie in life. How awesome to ponder how our Creator has put our individual ingredients so carefully together. Yet we get to choose our finishing touches and the temperature settings of the day. Sometimes we're hot, sometimes we're not. Every day is spent forming our own creation of self. Some days we also form a pie. Our ingredients of the day can be mixed up, nutty and complicated, or just sweetly simple. Fruits grown out of even the best soil and conditions may become bruised, but even imperfect fruit can become a pie to savor. Life, as imperfect as it may be, has a multitude of savory and sweet bites in each new day. Pie in life, filled to the brim with the fillings of our choice, oozing and bubbling over, and just so beautifully messy. Pie in life, any pie or day can end in failure and be perfected on the next. Pie in life, presented in pieces and are just what is left over, or sometimes well presented, well-rounded as a whole. Pie in life are made up of a beautiful variety of spices and different tastes. Pie in life, overworking can make it too tough. Pie in life, tender care will always produce a perfect foundation. Pie in life, dig in while it's fresh. Share that creation.
Get your copy of The Pie Letters by Coletta Hewitt in softcover or ebook from thepieletters.com. That's thepieletters.com, and buy your copy in softcover or ebook from thepieletters.com, or you can go to Amazon. Love you all. God bless.
You're listening to the Real Talk School of Nursing podcast.
So, welcome back. Let's talk about nursing school. This question comes from Adam, so shout out to Adam. Thank you for writing in. He's asking about how to stay motivated to study while there aren't any breaks in action, like going to class and spending time with friends. And basically, he's just sitting in his study corner. And okay, first off, Adam, you need to come up with a different name.
Study corner is so boring.
It's boring.
Yeah.
I think you should change it to be more exciting. If it was a study, if my room was a study corner, I feel like I would be depressed going to it.
I'm depressed just thinking about it.
It should be like a nurse's station, or I don't know what it like. I called mine so the room that I record in now. That's now my very posh studio, is my recording studio. I still refer to it as my study dungeon because I think it's hilarious.
That's even worse than study corner. You're
I know,
a
but
prisoner
you're like,
in your own in your own studies. That's terrible.
Yeah, but it sounds really cool.
No, I think you're the only person in the world who might think that sounds cool. That sounds just, it sounds like torture happens in dungeons. That's just.
Yeah, but it's worth it. So, but like you got to come up with something like study corner. Come on. Like, what did you call your area? Your office?
I didn't really have, so in college, I really didn't have an area. I would always go to friends' houses, but we did have, our library was called Powell Library, but we all called it Club Powell. And
there you go.
You go in that mindset, like, yeah, this is going to be fun. We're all going to go. And it never was. Honestly, I think I got the least studying done at Club Powell because we went in there in groups of friends and we'd take over one of those study rooms and have the door closed.
I love the study rooms.
And we take naps
I totally love
and
those.
Eat snacks and stuff. It wasn't productive, but my home office, when I was working from home, I just called that my office. But I always made sure to have fun little things in there. I would always have a candle lit. I would always have my dog in there. That's a big help. I would have little things I could fidget with, like click pens and annoying things like that. Or I would have those weird... So at a time when things were really hard with our company, they sent us adult coloring books to de-stress instead of just paying us more. So I would have...
Oh, well, that's helpful.
I would have things like that to kind of take a break, or I'd go on a walk. But, I mean, at the end of the day, studying sucks. So...
It does. Like, if I imagine like, so because everything is being, I mean, everybody is being moved to like a work from home situation. So everybody's dealing with this. So I'm kind of hoping that there's some universality to it, to the advice. But to be honest, like the situation, if you're in school and you're in, especially if you're in nursing school, this sounds very much like the situation when you're studying for the NCLEX. Because you don't have class anymore. You're like done with school. You don't have class anymore. You don't have that social aspect of going to class or meeting up with classmates afterwards in order to study. You can't go to Club Powell. It's you, a computer, a stack of books, a whiteboard, or 3 in my case. So, just like that time, I think for me, I would suggest that you take a very regimented approach to things. I think mainly you need to create a schedule, and I suggest like 2 hours on, 1 hour off. And if you have more stamina, which you probably should, for sitting on your keister for the amount of time that you have to do when you're in nursing school. But if you can do 3 or 4 hours on, 1 off, fine. But I wouldn't go any longer than 4 hours. And like you should be able to do like 3 or 4 of those iterations a day. So if you're like 2 on, 1 off, you should be able to do like maybe 5 of those. And you should be able to like easily get 10 solid hours of study time per day. And longer if you can stand it. But I think if you plan breaks in, first off, your cell phone needs to be out of the room. Like keep off Facebook and social media and stuff like that. Unless you're on your scheduled break. Yeah, but I think if you have like the regimented planned breaks, I think that's gonna be what's gonna help you not burn out, not just get sick of being in your study corner.
Yeah, it kind of motivates
I think that's
you,
what's gonna do it.
Because it kind of gives you, okay, I need to power through. I have 2 more hours, then I can go watch TV or go on a run, and then it gives you a light at the end of the tunnel. Like maybe when the dungeon doors will open up and you can get some sunshine.
I like the other thing he kind of hinted at, or the other thing that I did to keep myself engaged, I had some very, very low music going in the background, and I did that partially because several years prior I had read an article about the science of video game music. And shout out to Nurse Matt, who's a huge video game geek.
Oh my God!
I'm sure he would love that. But there's a science to it. Like and movie score music is kind of the same thing. The main idea is that the music shouldn't be distracting.
So not lyrical music, just sounds.
Yeah, it's like it's mostly so. The channel that I used on Pandora was centered around the HBO series Band of Brothers, which came out in the early 2000s, and it's these sweeping orchestral scores. Other movies that would typically be included in the channel were things like Interstellar, which is a great music score, Rudy, The Dark Knight. It's these kind of inspirational sweeping orchestral scores that are just that can sit in the background, and it really allowed me to not be distracted by like every little sound that happens in my house.
It's like a white noise kind of thing for you.
Right, for sure. But it's also not. I'm not distracted by the music itself.
Right.
And I think it really aided my concentration because it covered stuff that needed to be covered that was distracting,
mm-hmm.
but it didn't distract me from, so I could actually read something and not be completely distracted by it.
And that makes sense. I actually do the same kind of thing. I did it in school and I do it even now. My husband thinks it's so weird. If I'm reading, I need to be completely focused. I'll put my phone on airplane mode. I'll pull up an instrumental or something. Well, I'm weird. I usually do nature sounds, so like waves crashing on the beach, rainfall.
Yep.
I like one I've started liking recently is a fireplace crackling when it's cold out because our fireplace doesn't work. So I like to pretend, but things like that kind of have always kind of helped me.
Did you ever like do the coffee shop studying?
No, because we had 2 coffee shops on campus, one of which were a Starbucks, and I could not afford that, number one. Number two, you kind of have to buy something to sit in there. So I was a Club Pal kind of girl all the way. What about you? I'd never found it helpful really, or we'd go to Panera sometimes too, and I just didn't.
Sure.
I don't know.
Like there's a couple of coffee shops that were near campus, and most of them had like this kind of like hippie music going in the background, and they would have like comfy couches and, comfortable places to sit. And there was a lot of people that I saw, from the community who would, go there with their computers and have the computers open and, and I think some of it, like I think nursing students or students in general go there for just a change of scenery. Obviously you can't do that right now though.
Right.
But it was they needed that chaos around them. And I just don't understand that. And maybe if you're doing something more from an artistic standpoint, like having that chaos around you can kind of help feed you a little bit, kind of keep you awake and engaged maybe.
Okay.
But I think with the heavy the heaviness, the density of like nursing subjects, no matter what they are, I think that environment is not conducive to studying in general.
No, not at all. And I'm someone, if I'm around other people who aren't studying nursing, but they're studying something, I don't want to say the word easier, but I'm going to say the word easier. I would be very bitter. And if I overheard assignments and I'm like, oh, they have to write a 2-page paper, it's really hard for you. Then do you want to talk about it?
500 words? That sounds so difficult. Oh my gosh.
I know. And I would get really bitter, and then I would get distracted from the studying I should be doing because I would just be sitting there like, I should have picked a different major. This sucks. I hate this. I want to be sitting there drinking coffee with my friends, kind of not like studying, but not really. But I can't because I'm in nursing school.
Oh my gosh. Oh, so I think let's take a break right there, and then we'll go back and let's in the next segment let's talk about NCLEX prep and new grad issues. So let's take a break and hear from one of our sponsors, and we'll be right back.
I've heard people say that too much of anything is not good for you. But I don't know about that. As many times as we've made food, and we've shared food, and we've made food, it just doesn't seem to me like it's enough. It's just not enough. It's just not enough, babe. My darling, I can't get enough of your food, babe. Girl, I don't know how. I can't get enough of your love, babe. Okay, that's enough. This is ridiculous.
Okay, I won't subject you to any more of my singing if you go to foodiequeen.com. That's FOODIQUEEN.com and connect with Michelle Gray and join her Facebook group. There are almost 28,000 members, and you can start to see why when you look through her multitude of recipe samples in the group. Members share their successes and reach out for help and support in this great community, led by the foodie queen herself, Michelle Gray. Listen to Season 4, Episode 7 to listen to our interview. Good luck, have fun, and join her group. All right, well, welcome back. So let's talk about some NCLEX prep new grad issues. So in this last week, there's been a lot of things that have been coming out of Ohio. about how COVID-19 has been touching every aspect of our nursing school journey. And so there are two items of note. First, the Ohio Board of Nursing has effectively suspended the NCLEX requirement. And I'll just read it verbatim. So, quote, the law suspends for the period of the COVID-19 emergency the law requiring an applicant for licensure by examination to have passed the National Standardized Licensure Exam approved by the Ohio Board of Nursing. The law authorizes the board to issue licenses to practice as an RN or LPN to applicants who meet the remaining legal requirements, including completing a board-approved nursing education program and criminal records check. The license will be valid until whichever of the following dates occurs first. 1, the date that is 90 days after December 1st, 2020. And 2, the date that is 90 days after the duration of the period of emergency declared by Executive Order 2020-01D, which is kind of funny because like there are still executive orders for state of emergencies from like the Jimmy Carter age. So like 1976, 1978, somewhere in there, there's like still executive orders that are still in effect. So hopefully that's not the case. Or perhaps depending on what you think, maybe we should continue that. But like my first reaction to this was like, first off, fantastic.
Hell yeah.
It's a stupid test that just feeds money to the state without being much value to us. The test and I'm gonna venture a guess that you feel the same way, that the test has very little to do with actual nursing.
I'm biased because the NCLEX just broke me in every sense of the word. Mentally, spiritually, emotionally, it was terrible. But on the other hand, I did pass it my first try, and I needed some kind of redeeming quality to get me a job because my GPA kind of sucked. So I'm kind of going to complain either way. I hated nursing school, but I think there's way too much emphasis on the NCLEX, and I know some fantastic nurses who have failed it even up to 4 or 5 times, and
wow.
They're
Yeah.
incredible.
Well, I shouldn't say wow, but yeah. Because I failed it once. I took it twice. It shut off at 75 both times.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so I did so terrible on my first attempt that it shut off at 75.
They just gave up on you.
Yeah. Well, and I've told the story a bunch of times, but basically it was I am an extremely impatient person, and I dug myself a hole in the of all places in the tutorial.
What?
I was just in the tutorial because I hadn't run into it. I didn't do I didn't go to the NCSBN website and do the practice tutorial. And I was just like, oh my God, I've been here for like 10 minutes. And I'm just like trying to click through this and it won't let me click through this. And I've been here for 15 minutes and I haven't answered a single question. I'm just, And I got really impatient, and that just set the tone for the rest of it. And I'm pretty sure like I didn't read any question. I just, I did
That's a good strategy.
Typical. Yeah. So, impatience is always going to be my greatest weakness when it comes to that kind of thing. But it was bad. But on the other hand, so my first reaction was, good. It's a dumb test. It doesn't have anything to do with nursing. But my second reaction, perhaps more measured, is that I feel like there's some value not necessarily in the test, but in the test preparation.
I agree with that.
Because I felt like it was a period of refinement, where I discovered resources that I didn't have in school. And it was a very intense time where I learned a lot. And, just because I hated the test doesn't mean that the preparation didn't have value. And then the third reaction was that the other impact to this announcement from the Board of Nursing of Ohio, and I think there's probably some others that have followed suit thus far. I've just not aware of them yet.
Mm-hmm.
The memo doesn't say anything about waiving the requirement for good.
That's
and
what
that
I
makes
was
me
wondering
wary.
too. Yeah, it sounds too good to be true.
So my immediate reaction, because I'm like a big picture thinker, so I go, well, what are the second and third order effects of a decision like this or an announcement like this? So I look at this and I go, so does that mean like 4,000 or 5,000 nurses in the state of Ohio in a year after practicing for a full year, because it's 90 days past December 1st, right? So that's end of February, basically March 1st, essentially.
Yeah.
So on March 1st next year, after all these nurses who have, these nurses or these people who have been practicing as a nurse for a year, are they going to have to go back and take the NCLEX?
And then if they fail, they're going to say, oh, well, you can't be a nurse until, even though they've had so much experience in that year.
Right.
But
exactly.
I could see the state boards of nursing pulling that kind of stuff on us, because a lot of times these things just don't make sense.
Like, would the state really make that, all these successfully practicing nurses take a test in order to retroactively activate their actual license when the crisis is over? Like, is that a thing?
I would really hope not. I mean,
I think
there's just no reason for it. I can't think of a single way that would justify that if you've already been practicing.
Right. And I think, and I'm hoping, I mean, it's my hope that this can, it would like provide some sort of proof that the test is not a good measurement of being able to practice.
Yeah.
And will this cast a shadow, so to speak, over the test and maybe show that the test isn't necessary? Mm-hmm. I mean, I do think that there's got to be some kind of a threshold, but we'll get into it later, but that's just kind of where I thought it was going. It was like, okay, well, does this show that people can go into the profession and practice successfully without taking this test that may or may not matter at all? And like, what's that going to look like?
I could see that potentially being something really good that comes out of this decision by the board, and hopefully they'll just do away with it. I mean, I don't know, because
do you think it's something that could happen nationally, or Ohio? Because if Ohio has the ability to go, well, you don't have to pass the NCLEX in order to practice in the state of Ohio.
But then what if you move and then they'll say, and then you have to get a license in a new state, and then they'll say, oh, you never took the NCLEX. Would they make you take it then? So I feel like if it's going to be done, it should be done on a national level for when families need to relocate for whatever reason and things like that. But again, a lot of things in our healthcare system don't make sense. So,
Ohio, I think, is a compact state. I think it is. There are several states that aren't. Yeah, there are several states that aren't. But but there's two things. So the second thing that came out of the state of Ohio, that I think a lot of states are have done, but this is one of the two big things, is that Ohio. So I'll just quote again. So quote, Ohio law authorizes nursing practice in emergencies without an Ohio nursing license, including deployment of licenses from other states to Ohio during the state and national emergency, as well as the deployment of Ohio licensed nurses to similar declared emergency areas. Specifically, the Nurse Practice Act, section blah, 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 revised code, blah, 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 allows nurses to hold an active valid license in another state to practice in Ohio without Ohio nursing license for the duration of any declared disaster, including the current COVID-19 declared emergency.
That was a lot of words, but what does it all mean?
So, well, for me, what it means is that if you are from South Dakota, if you are from Washington State, if you're from Texas, if you're from Tennessee, you're from Florida, and you want to go practice in the state of Ohio, you can go, and it doesn't matter. They're like, are you a registered nurse somewhere within the United States? You can practice in Ohio.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And we're not going to send you through this administrative rigmarole in order to make that happen. So that's I think that's the long and short of it.
I really don't see why we can't already just practice in any state with our license, but
yeah,
I think it's just a money thing. I think is what it comes down to.
I think it totally it showcases the ridiculous nature of the state-specific nursing license. It's like I compare it to another license that most of us already have, a driver's license. Can you imagine, just for the sake of imagining things, that your ability to drive is only valid in the state that you reside in? And then in order to drive in another state, there's some arbitrary board or, test, that has to grant you the authority to drive in a non-resident state. And if your state and that state doesn't have reciprocity for some reason, then you have to go through this whole process in order to drive in another state. Like no one would put up with that.
When you explain it like that, it makes it all sound so stupid what we have to do. It's crazy. And now we're seeing that it's really not necessary to be licensed, to not have, I don't even know how to word it. It seems so unnecessary to have state-specific licenses when now there's a national emergency and they're just taking nurses from all over and saying, screw the license. So clearly we're all competent and we were all trained through the same kind of programs. We all took the NCLEX, so.
Yeah. Well, and that's the other thing. It's like, I can't remember what the two accreditation bodies are, but it's like one's the AACN. Mm-hmm. But that's a national accreditation. So, and every school has to have one of the two. I can't remember what the other one is, like CCRN or I can't remember what it is, but it's like the AACN is an accreditation. And so that's a national accreditation. And then we take a national nursing board called the NCLEX, but if we want to work in multiple states, we have to jump through, sorry to say this way, but we have to jump through our ass in order to do so.
How does one jump through their ass is my next question for you. I've never heard that one before.
Yeah, it's a military saying. So
is it?
You have to jump through your ass to do something.
I've never heard that.
It's very difficult. That's the bottom line.
Like jumping through hoops for the non-military listeners. Okay.
Have you ever? Yeah, but like my state, for example, we don't have any reciprocity at all with any of the other 5 surrounding states. No reciprocity whatsoever. And before I it's dumb.
It's stupid.
So before I graduated, a member of the state board came down and spoke to us about why this was the case, or that was a question that came up in their little talk. And it was because one of the board members, like one of the legacy board members, felt that education was just not as good in other states. And I was like, yeah, but we all have this national accreditation and we all have a national board. So their nurses are too dumb to work in your state? I don't... Exactly. Even though they passed the NCLEX. Yep. And that have, makes sense. You could have somebody who's been practicing in emergency medicine for 20 years and, they could be like the most amazing person ever. And if my state had a national, we're like, we need more nurses, send us nurses. This board member would stop other people from coming in because they don't think that a nurse from a neighboring state or any other state is good enough to practice in the state. Huh. So that's some pretty
now the person
nose up in the
making
air kind of thinking.
This decision, when was the last time they worked at a bedside?
At all? Probably 35 years ago, I'm guessing.
Okay. So this is I
have no idea.
The best possible person to be making this decision, it sounds like.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I kind of wonder if the second and third order effects of this is that the state license is going to go away, and there's just going to be, if you can practice in one state, you can practice in any state, and that's so to improve the portability of your ability to help out anywhere in the country, in case of an emergency, which I just think is so smart.
And we're learning now that that's necessary. It's completely.
I think so.
And I think there's a good potential that it could get worse over the coming weeks and months, and we're going to need people to be able to move easily throughout states and hospitals.
I agree. The caveat to this, and I'll come back to what I was going to say, but the caveat to this is I truly believe in state sovereignty. Like, since a nursing license, isn't a power that's ceded to the federal government, the state holds that power. So I'm a little torn by this, and I don't really have a good answer for what should happen from a legal standpoint, from a political standpoint, except that I find the lack of a national license to be completely illogical. Like, if you're just, like, you have a driver, I have a driver's license for my state, and I can drive in any state. That just seems like a completely logical thing to me. But I don't know. Like the something that you and I have talked about over the last couple weeks is that we're both thinking about doing some travel nursing.
Oh my God, I would love to. You were talking about where was the latest place?
So the two places that there's several places, but New York, New Jersey, Boston, Washington State, and California are all getting kind of hit really hard, and I kind of feel that I'm in a good position to go.
Right.
Like I've dealt with I've dealt with crises before. I deal with ambiguity very well. And
people are calling this like working in a war zone, and you have literally been in actual war zones.
Yep.
So.
Yep. And survived that just fine. Well, I wouldn't say
you
just
lost
fine,
all your
maybe.
hair, but.
Yeah, but that had to do with kids. That's a different war.
Okay.
But I just feel like there's something to that. I just feel like I'm kind of called to service on this, and so I've really thought about. This is a very serious consideration because I haven't seen my family in a couple weeks, 3 weeks. I haven't seen my kids in 3 weeks except by FaceTime. So I'm like, well, I'm by myself. I'm going to get this anyway. So if I'm by myself and I'm going to get it anyway, and I have this ability, I have this knowledge and these skill sets, then why shouldn't I go and help where it's most needed? Right.
That's kind of where I'm at too. I was sitting at home, I guess, what was it? 2 weeks ago on one of my days off. I had a stretch of maybe 5 days off. And I got really upset talking to my husband. And I was like, our hospital right now really isn't getting hit hard. I think the people in our area are really taking the social distancing seriously. But I felt really guilty almost that I wasn't like suffering with the other nurses in the harder hit hospitals. I know girls I went to school with that are in Manhattan in the heart of all of it at the very worst hospitals. And they were telling me how horrible it is. And I was like, I should be there. I have the capability to help. Honestly, I'd be lying if I said the money wasn't a huge enticement. But the main thing is I feel like even though we didn't sign up for this, I think that kind of, for me, it means I didn't sign up to fight a pandemic in a surgical mask and not the right equipment. But I think it is part of being a nurse just internally is we feel like we should be on those front lines really helping. And I just feel guilty not being there.
The caveat, though, is that we're all going to be on, I'm on the front lines now. Yeah. And eventually it's going to trickle down. So, every, the epidemiology of this virus seems to be pretty, it spreads pretty easily. Is what it seems like. So if you're not affected by it now, you're gonna be.
They're saying we're gonna get hit like New York in the next 2 weeks, but we're supposed to be getting hit fairly soon, like New York. I know it's hard to say for certain, but being so close to New York and New Jersey, I could see that being a huge possibility, which is kind of scary going into every shift, feeling like it's the calm before the storm and just wondering if it's going to happen all at once, if it's going to happen gradually.
Yeah. No, I think no matter what we do while we're in this profession, and we're in this time in our profession, is that we're all going to be affected, and we're already being affected by it in some way, shape, or form. Yeah, you already got the Rona.
I have the Rona.
You have the Rona.
I still haven't gotten confirmation, but I know I have it.
You still haven't gotten test results back?
9 days. It's 9 days, and I have not gotten my test results.
Jesus.
Yeah.
That's insane.
So at this point, I'm just like, just keep them. I don't even care anymore. I've had a fever for days. Whatever. If they come back negative, I won't believe it anyway. So. Yeah.
We had a discussion between me and some of the other nurses and some of the other docs is that we're basically not testing anymore because we're doing a clinical diagnosis. So it's like, well, you have these set of symptoms. If you're positive or negative, is that going to change our treatment?
Right.
And the answer is no. We're like, if you have this thing that's going on where you have pneumonia, well, we're going to treat the pneumonia. And if you can't breathe on your own, we're going to put you on, we're going to intubate you, or we're going to do this. So it doesn't really matter what the test result is.
It doesn't change the course of treatment.
That's exact. It's exactly like the flu. So I mean, in the emergency department, we see it all the time. It's like, well, somebody comes in with influenza-like, air quotes, influenza-like symptoms, and they come in and are like, okay, well, how long have you had these symptoms? Well, like 4 days. Like, okay, well, we can test you and we can tell you if you have influenza A or B or negative, but that's not going to change.
We're not going to give you Tamiflu, so.
We're not going to give you Tamiflu. We're not going to, it's not going to change what we're going to tell you, which is go home, isolate yourself, take lots of showers, wash your clothes often, wash your bed sheets, and manage your symptoms with Tylenol and cough medicine. Mm-hmm. Bye. Yeah. That just costs you $2,000 for us to tell you to take Tylenol.
You're right.
I
kind of
and not get tested.
Yeah. Part of me kind of wishes that healthcare professionals were getting tested more, just so we could have accurate numbers on it and really know, okay, are the measures that we're taking in the hospital with our PPE, are they really helping? But also, we still have to go to the grocery store sometimes. We still have to stop at the pharmacy. So it's impossible. I know a friend I have, her hospital won't test their staff because they just consider it, well, you probably got it out in the community. So we can't really, it's impossible.
That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
That doesn't make any sense.
I don't.
But that doesn't make sense because it's like, okay, well, if you have it or if you don't, even if you don't exhibit any symptoms, the danger isn't necessarily to you and I. Because you and I have like a supersized, super strong immune system.
I don't. I got the Rona within like a week of this getting here.
But you were probably exposed to it early. Like I think this has probably been circulating for 2 months.
Yeah.
It's been 2 months. I forget that it's April right now, but several months. It's been around for. Intelligence reports are telling us that it surfaced in China, and they hid reports about it since June, July, August, I think August or whatever, and we didn't learn about it until November, December. So it had been around for a long time. So the danger isn't the fact that you and I are exposed to it, is that you and I probably aren't going to have that many or aren't going to have severe symptoms. Probably. I'm probably not going to have severe symptoms. But I might be in contact with somebody who might have very severe symptoms.
Right.
and that's the trouble, because
which is why we social distance.
Right. But we can't do that when we're at work.
Right.
We're still, regardless of all the PPE and all the stuff that we wear while we're at work, like, I still have to treat this patient in front of me, and I can do all the precautions I want. Like this little, I'm not wearing full PPE every time I go and clean a room. So, if I go, like, while I'm in a room, well, did I just reinfect the room that I'm going to put a patient in another 10 minutes? So, like, I think if we are, and we have been only testing the most severe cases, which I think skews our numbers a bunch, but that's neither here nor there for this discussion. We should be testing the most high-risk people to make sure that we are not further infecting other people, because we are in contact with so many people who are in a state of sickness, so to speak. So that's where I come down. So, but I just don't think it's going to happen, because we're basically not testing anybody right now, because the test is not coming back. Like, there's been a couple of patients who come back and like, oh, this guy, for sure has it. Like, there's no reason why a person of this age with this history should be this sick for this reason. Like, they got the Rona for sure, and then they come back negative, and it's like, I don't freaking know that.
That's happened for, I think, every elderly patient, but it's our young ones who are getting it. But also, we got told 2 days ago at work now the swab should be done for 15 to 30 seconds, I think. And they're reporting possible false negatives. I know the swab was in my nose for like a second, so I don't even know how much specimen they got on it anyway. But it's so I don't know. I think maybe our numbers will start getting more accurate the more we learn about it. But there needs to be more of a standard for testing, because it just seems like everyone's just going rogue right now and making up their own rules all the time.
Well, I think everybody's just trying to react to it. Like it's, we just don't know enough right now, and I think that makes a big difference. The other thing that you kind of like, the young people who are getting it. It's funny, because it's I was having a discussion with a friend the other day, and we were talking about how they're like, oh, these young people are getting it, and it's affecting young men especially. And I'm like, but they don't have any pre-existing conditions that would open them up to this. So this is hitting them really hard. And I'm like, okay, but it's guys. So like,
so they have the man cold. Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm saying that they ignore, like, well, they don't have any medical history of this. Like, okay, but if I think about all my guy friends who are out there in the community and doing stuff, like, you could be like, hey, this guy's had chest pain for 20 years and hasn't said anything about it.
Yeah.
And so they probably, they have, or whatever, whatever it is. Like, this person's probably had COPD, or, they're, the typical one is like, well, they have a BMI of 42, but they don't have any history of diabetes. Okay.
Right.
Like,
on paper they don't, but
on paper they don't, but they come in and they have a blood sugar of 670 and an A1C that's off it's 14, or something like that.
Yeah.
Like, oh, they didn't have any comorbidities, they didn't have any pre-existing conditions,
but they take 10 prescription meds a day.
Like, okay, but they don't have any medical history. So this 38-year-old male, in my head, this 38-year-old male who didn't have any medical history is like, they just didn't have any medical history because it's not on paper, not because they didn't actually have.
Like, they probably haven't had a physical in 10 years.
They haven't. You're right. They haven't had the physical since
my husband doesn't remember the last time he saw a doctor, and I'm trying to force him to. Well, now he can't get a physical because the Rona.
Nobody going.
Yeah. So that worked out for him.
Like,
but
yeah, it's like the the guy hasn't had I mean, literally, it would have been 20 years. So if you're 38, you probably haven't had a physical if you're a dude since you're high school physical to play sports or something like that. You're like, that's really the last time you went in and saw a doctor.
Yeah.
And so it's like, well, yeah, of course there's no medical history on this person. Like, duh.
I never thought about that. But yeah, you men are really bad about going to the doctor. When this is over, start going to the doctor, please.
It's funny because I think about it all the time when people go into the ER or come in and be like, I would never come in for this. I would never come in for this. Well, I've had abdominal pain for an hour. Be like, I'm gonna go sit on the toilet for like 5 hours before I go into the ER. Like, I'm gonna make sure that there's nothing left in my stomach. I'm gonna do a bunch of stuff before I come into the ER.
Silver lining, I think people maybe are learning how to actually utilize emergency rooms now. And realizing if you have a hangnail, it's not necessary to go to the emergency department for that.
Especially at 3 a.m.
Yeah.
My favorite ones were the patients who would like, it's 7:30. Their dentist office opens, which is a block away, or their dentist office opens and has open appointments at 8 a.m. But at 7:35 they come into the ER for a toothache.
See, this is why you tell me I should consider moving to the ER, and this is exactly why I will not consider that. That would drive me insane.
Yeah, it is what it is. But, well, I think let's end the show there. Oh, wait a minute. Let's take a commercial break, and then I seem to recall that we have some kind of announcement or something.
Yeah, something about a really awesome giveaway we were doing on Instagram and Facebook.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So let's take a quick break. Let me think about it. Let's take a break. I'll try to remember what it is, and when we come back, we'll announce it.
Let's do it.
Nursing Student Ground, this is Real Talk 6, ready for taxi with Romeo Papa Hotel, downwind departure. Roger, Nursing Student Ground, taxi to 31 right via Zulu. Nursing students, do you want to become an RN and think someday you'd like to be a flight nurse? How can you make this happen? What's the best flight path to make this dream, inside the dream of being an RN, a reality? If this has any interest for you, you should go out and buy the Flight Nurse Bible, a field guide to awesomeness by Robert P. Harris, BSN, RN, CFRN, CTRN, TCRN, CEN, CPEN, CNPT, CCRN. Here's Nurse Rob reading a selection from his book. You can also hear the full 2-part interview with Nurse Rob from Season 4, Episodes 2.1 and 2.2, published in December 2019 on the Real Talk School of Nursing podcast.
There are billions and billions of people on this beautiful blue planet, and we are all spinning through space together for the entire term of our short lives. These facts should not depress you or make you feel small. These facts should inspire and empower you to look around the world and see the many ways you can make a positive impact with your existence. If there is a greater purpose to life, it must be to serve one another passionately and alleviate suffering. We must also attempt to live as intelligently, courageously, and joyfully as possible. Semper Fi, blue skies, Vios Indios. Oh, and one more thing, no matter what you do not walk into a tail rotor.
Nurse Rob has a great preview on the book on Amazon.com, and you can connect with him directly on LinkedIn by searching for Robert P. Harris. Check him out. Check flight path.
You're listening to the Real Talk School of Nursing podcast.
All right, well, welcome back. So let's end the show I forget, what were we gonna do?
There was something about a cooler or something that you...
Oh, yeah, like a Yeti giveaway, something like that. So why don't you... So how many entries did we actually have for this last one?
Well over 200, I would say.
That's pretty awesome.
It was a good turnout.
And I'm so glad that I didn't have to do all of this by hand, because I had done all of the previous ones by hand where I have to, like, go through,
so
like, individual, like, try to find all these and write them down on little note cards. And
so my
so
borderline boomer co-host just does not know how to use the internet or social media, so he desperately needed to enlist my help with all this. Desperately. He's gotten a lot of learning about how the world of Instagram works and Facebook.
No, I still don't. I still don't know how to use Instagram.
He's just not allowed to touch anything anymore.
So before we announce, I do want to. I mean, we still haven't worked out all the details about how this merger is going to happen. But you came from Instagram, and your page, your specific page that you've been managing. What's it called?
It is at Refreshments and Narcotics RN.
With a symbol or the AND?
A&D. Spelled out.
Okay, so it's Refreshments and Narcotics RN on Instagram. And you also have a Facebook page, right? Okay, so we're still trying to figure out, like, how we're going to merge all of this, if we're going to keep it separate and just kind of post, co-post and stuff like that. But basically we have merged.
We have merged.
We have merged into we're family now. It's kind of amazing. Like I said it. I telegraphed. There's my oldness right there. I telegraphed this over the last couple episodes, and I'm so grateful that you're coming along for this. I'm so grateful that you're here and that you're part of the Real Talk family.
I'm excited you asked me to be a part of it. I was not expecting that.
Like, it was funny because you just wrote to me, because I checked on you. I was like, hey, what's going on? And you're like, oh, it took a break and this thing was going on. And I was like, and I just jokingly asked, I said, well, do you want to be a part of the Real Talk family? And she's like, yes. And I was like, oh,
it's happening.
This is what is happening right now. I don't understand what's happening. I was like like halfway joking, like
I wasn't.
Ha. That's the response that I thought I was going to get. It was like ha. You're so funny.
Well, right
Michael.
now we have nothing better to do anyway, so it was a perfect time.
Oh, so it was nothing better to do or become a member of the family.
Trust me. Once this pandemic's over, I'm done. But I need something to do on my days off.
On your days off. Do you have days off? I don't think you do. So, without further ado, who won? So the rule is that they get to pick one of these three things. So you can have the small cooler, the Yeti Hopper 8, the Yeti Hopper 12, or the Yeti Camino bag. So who is our winner? Who gets to pick one of those three things?
So our winner is Maddie Hancock on Instagram at Madd Hancock. So reach out to us to claim your prize. Look out for anyone who wants to enter the next giveaway. In the next week, we're going to be posting which prize that Maddie's picked.
So the best way to contact us is to contact us through Facebook or Instagram at Refreshments and Narcotics RN, or at Real Talk Nursing, and that works through Facebook, Instagram. I have a Twitter account that I'm almost never on, but you can contact me through Twitter, or you can just use our regular old email, our boomer email, realtalknursing@gmail.com, and let us know that which prize you want, and we'll get it out to you. And like Casey said, look for a post in the next week or so for round 2. So that should do it.
That should do it.
All right. Well, thanks for coming along with this journey, everybody. I'm so grateful to Casey for coming along and becoming part of the family. I'm really looking forward to what the next, however long this lasts, however long I can stretch this out and make this work. I'm really excited for what you bring to the show. And I still don't know what all the changes are going to look like, but
they're going to be fun.
I'm very excited. I'm so excited. I'm so excited. Thank you so much.
Guys, I just saw a tear stream down his face.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
Oh,
maybe.
Don't cry.
Maybe. All right. Well, let's talk to you later, everybody. Thanks for coming along on this journey. We'll see you in episode 83 in the next couple weeks. Bye, guys. This Real Talk School of Nursing podcast is a Real Talk production. This podcast is dedicated to our brothers and sisters on the front lines of this COVID-19 situation. And to my kids, Luke and Ruth, I love you and I miss you.
Sic semper tyrannis, facta non verba.
Good night, Steve Cannon. Wherever you are. Annyeong kasayo. Now you go home.
Thank you for continuing to support the show. You can support the show directly on our Patreon account at www.patreon.com/realtalknursing, and for as little as $2 per month, you can gain patron benefits such as early content, shoutouts, special swag, and more. Write in to us at realtalknursing@gmail.com or contact us through Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter to share your experiences, ask questions, and give feedback. Thank you for supporting our friends, affiliates, and sponsors. Thank you to everyone who started following us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. More listeners means more and better shows. Make sure to share the episode with your classmates and colleagues. Let's give a hand up to those who are coming behind us and welcome them to our community of fun, engaged, and supportive nursing students and nurses. Let us know if you have any graduation announcements, good grades, difficult tests, or friends you want to congratulate or encourage, and your announcement will be featured on the show. If you like the show, the Real Talk School of Nursing podcast is available on most major podcast platforms, including, but not limited to, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Stitcher. So go to wherever you download podcasts, smash that subscribe button, share with friends, and leave a 5-star review to help us get noticed by more nursing students and nurses. We want you to be a part of this crazy nursing journey.
The Real Talk School of Nursing podcast is a holy moly, I can't believe you're still listening to this podcast.